In the tumultuous landscape of the Wars of the Roses, where the houses of Lancaster and York clashed for control of England's throne, battles were not just military encounters, but pivotal turning points for the future of England. In our last video, we explored the Battle of Barnet, a crucial engagement where the Lancastrians, led by Warwick the Kingmaker, faced the forces of King Edward IV of York. The aftermath of Barnet saw the Lancastrian cause reeling, with Warwick's death and Edward's triumph reshaping the political landscape. Now we turn our attention to Tewkesbury, a battle that followed just a few weeks after Barnet. How did the Lancastrians, under Queen Margaret of Anjou, regroup after their defeat at Barnet? What strategies did Edward IV employ to solidify his recent gains? And ultimately, how did the events of Tewkesbury lead to the near end of the Lancastrian hopes and the consolidation of Yorkist power under Edward? So join me as I explore this clash of Lancastrian and Yorkist forces on the fields of Gloucestershire, and look at how the events at Tewkesbury unfolded. What were the repercussions for the houses of Lancaster and York? What led to this climactic confrontation? And how does it connect to the preceding Battle of Barnet? By understanding the connections between Barnet and Tewkesbury, we gain a clearer picture of this pivotal moment in English history, where the fates of two houses hung in the balance, and the course of the monarchy was decided on a field in Gloucestershire. Following the Battle of Barnet, which saw the Lancastrians dealt a severe blow, the Lancastrian heir to the throne, Edward of Westminster, found himself in a precarious position. As the son of Henry VI and Margaret of Anjou, he was the focal point of Lancastrian hopes for reclaiming the English crown. However, with their forces scattered and their leaders killed or in retreat, Edward's situation seemed dire. In a bid to regroup and bolster their ranks, Edward, along with his mother, Queen Margaret, retreated to the relative safety of Wales. Here they sought refuge and began the arduous task of rallying support from remaining Lancastrian sympathisers and loyalists. Queen Margaret, fueled by her unwavering determination to secure the throne for her son, embarked on a tireless campaign to gather the scattered Lancastrian forces. Despite the devastating setback at Barnet, she refused to concede defeat, knowing that the fate of the Lancastrian cause rested on their ability to mount a final, decisive confrontation with the Yorkists. Drawing upon the loyalty and resilience of those who had fought alongside them at Barnet, Queen Margaret and Edward began preparations. With the fate of the English crown hanging in the balance, they marshalled their forces, hardened by adversity and driven by a fierce determination to reclaim what they believed was rightfully theirs. The Lancastrians rallied with unwavering resolve as they prepared for their next encounter. Margaret was spearheading their forces, determined to secure her husband's place on the throne. Alongside her were troops drawn from diverse regions, each contributing their unique skills and experiences to the Lancastrian cause. Among them were many battle-hardened veterans, scarred by the trials of previous conflicts but undeterred in their loyalty to the House of Lancaster. On the opposing side stood the Yorkists, led by the resolute Edward IV, whose recent triumph at Barnet had bolstered their confidence and sharpened their resolve. With meticulous planning and strategic positioning, Edward aimed to press their advantage and quash the Lancastrian threat once and for all. His forces comprised a formidable array of experienced soldiers, seasoned by years of campaigning, and loyal nobles, whose allegiance to the Yorkist cause ran deep. Encouraged by their recent victory, the Yorkist army stood poised to deliver a decisive blow that would secure the throne and cement Edward's claim to the crown. Both armies were evenly matched as far as numbers went, with about 6,000 soldiers on each side. The Battle of Tewkesbury took place on the 4th of May 1471, on a vast field to the south of the quiet town of Tewkesbury, nestled in the picturesque county of Gloucestershire. The Lancastrians and Yorkists braced themselves for the clash, each side keenly aware of the stakes at hand. With caution and calculation, the Lancastrians initiated the skirmish, their archers unleashing a volley of arrows that sliced through the air. Yet, their advance was met with a ferocious response from the disciplined ranks of the Yorkist longbowmen, whose deadly accuracy halted the Lancastrian momentum in its tracks. Undeterred, the Lancastrian cavalry thundered forward, their hooves pounding the earth as they aimed to shatter the Yorkist lines with sheer force of impact. However, they found themselves confronted by Edward IV's meticulously trained cavalry, whose skillful maneuvers and unwavering resolve proved to be a formidable barrier against the Lancastrian onslaught. Yet, the turning point of the battle came with the masterful stroke of Richard, Duke of Gloucester, who was to become the future Richard III. Sensing an opportunity to exploit a weakness in the Lancastrian formation, Gloucester orchestrated a daring flanking maneuver. With lightning speed, his forces descended upon the unsuspecting Lancastrian rear, sowing chaos and confusion amidst their ranks. Caught off guard and reeling from the sudden assault, the Lancastrians found themselves plunged into disarray, their lines collapsing under the weight of Gloucester's relentless onslaught. In the heart of the chaos, Edward of Westminster valiantly led the Lancastrian vanguard, only to find himself isolated and overwhelmed by the relentless tide of Yorkists. In the thick of the brutal battle, the young prince met his fate, his valiant struggle cut short as he fell at the age of just 17. According to contemporary sources, Edward was overtaken and slain in the battle during the rout of the Lancastrians, with some accounts attributing the deed to the Duke of Clarence. His untimely demise served as a devastating blow to the Lancastrian cause, extinguishing their hopes for a triumphant resurgence and signalling the impending doom of their bid for a new monarch. The death of Edward was a turning point in the Wars of the Roses, sealing the fate of the Lancastrians and securing Edward IV's hold on the throne. As the Lancastrian leader fell on the battlefield, his forces faced a devastating blow that shattered their resolve. The Yorkists, emboldened by their success and fueled by the desire for vengeance, launched a merciless flanking attack, further disorienting the Lancastrian ranks. Amidst the chaos, many Lancastrians sought refuge in Tewkesbury Abbey, hoping to find sanctuary from the relentless onslaught of their enemies. However, the Yorkists showed no quarter, pursuing the fleeing Lancastrians with ruthless determination. The once great symbol of hope for the Lancastrian cause became a scene of desperation and despair as the Yorkists tightened their grip on victory. Queen Margaret of Anjou was captured and imprisoned at Wallingford Castle, and then in the Tower of London in the aftermath of the battle, finally being ransomed by the French king Louis XI in 1475. She returned to France shortly afterwards, where she remained until her death 7 years later. Her husband, King Henry VI, who was also imprisoned in the Tower of London, died on May 21st, 1471. His cause of death is a bit unclear, but he was quite possibly murdered on the orders of Edward. This led to the Lancastrian resistance crumbling and signalled the final collapse of their challenge to Edward's reign. The losses suffered by the Lancastrians were staggering, further weakening their already precarious position in the ongoing power struggle. For Edward, the victory at Tewkesbury solidified his authority and provided a period of much-needed stability for the realm. The Yorkists enjoyed a respite from the relentless bloodshed, basking in the glory of their triumph. And indeed, Yorkist monarchs would rule England peacefully for the next 14 years. However, despite this moment of relative peace, the conflict would continue to simmer beneath the surface. The Battle of Tewkesbury stands as a defining moment in the Wars of the Roses. This clash proved to be a watershed conflict, signalling the effective demise of Lancastrian aspirations for the throne in the immediate future, while consolidating the grip of the Yorkist faction, firmly anchored by King Edward IV. Amidst the chaos and carnage of medieval warfare, Tewkesbury etched its place in history as a grim testament to the relentless pursuit of power and the ruthless nature of dynastic struggles. The brutality unleashed on the battlefield, with its unforgiving clashes of sword and shield, spear and armour, vividly showcased the stark realities of warfare during this era. However, it was the fate of Edward of Westminster that cast the biggest shadow over the Lancastrians. The death of such a prominent figure not only symbolised the crushing defeat of the Lancastrian cause, but also served as a stark reminder of the precariousness of the royal lineage during this time. In the aftermath of Tewkesbury, the Yorkist victory reverberated across England, reshaping the political landscape of the country and heralding a new era of Yorkist dominance under Edward IV. If you enjoyed this video, then give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to hit that notification bell to be notified of our next video. Join us next time, where we'll be diving into more fascinating events from history.